The Backrooms, a tantalizing yet foreboding place of infinite liminal spaces full of intrigue and mystery. You may be curious as to what this strange realm holds, and I'm happy to say that I'll now divulge its secrets. My name is Johnny, and I'll be your guide through the first 100 levels of the Backrooms. So sit back, no clip onto your favorite couch, and enjoy the show. So this is the first level that likely comes to mind when you think of the Backrooms, and it's the first level most people encounter when they no-clip out of reality. The Backrooms Wikidot rates it at a Class 1 survival difficulty, meaning it's safe, secure, and has a very low entity count. It's comprised of a seemingly endless sprawl of randomly shaped rooms with yellowish wallpaper, moist carpeting, and constantly humming fluorescent ceiling lights, which illuminate the entire level. You won't encounter any other people here, so if living in a defunct department store for the rest of your life doesn't exactly sound like a dream come true, then it's imperative you move onward to level 1. This level is actually pretty nice. Well, for a Backrooms level anyway. Here you'll find what appears to be a damp, abandoned warehouse, full of meandering hallways, staircases, and elevators that lead to higher or lower areas. This is the first level that's actually somewhat habitable, and you can occasionally find other people here, and even better, there are random loot chests that appear on the ground, the contents of which are free for the taking. Not everything in them is useful, but there is usually at least some useful items in every crate. You can also get to the hub from here, which is, well, a hub that allows you to traverse to different levels easily and in complete safety. Pretty sweet if you ask me. Now here's where things get kind of dangerous. When you enter this level, you'll find yourself in an expanse of what appear to be dark maintenance tunnels. It's very warm down here, especially in areas with active machinery, where the heat is often scorching. The tunnels here span for many millions of miles, and are home to many of the Backrooms' most dangerous entities. So many, in fact, that I'm not even going to get into them all. Just know that your best bet for survival here is being constantly ready to run at a moment's notice and holding a weapon at all times, if you manage to get your hands on one back on level 1. You'll encounter many locked doors, but even the doors that are unlocked frequently lead to dead ends. However, you can occasionally find rooms that have random assortments of objects inside them, as well as computers. The contents are nothing compared to the loot chests in level 1, but at least you can rest for a moment before you continue searching for level 3. If you thought level 2 was bad, then oh have I got some bad news for you. This is our first Class 4 difficulty level, and it's even larger, more claustrophobic, and more entity-infested than the previous level. Here you'll find what is ostensibly a labyrinth of subterranean hallways full of machinery, narrow passageways, and random metal bars blocking the path from time to time, that are impossible to break through. Believe me, people have tried. It's even more important to be armed here than on level 2, as there's a much higher entity count. It isn't all doom and gloom, however, as level 3 is actually very rich in valuable resources, which will dramatically increase the likelihood of your survival, if acquired. In essence, this place is everything you hate about level 2, just cranked up a dozen notches. May your time here be speedy and hassle-free. Congratulations! You've made it through the first 4 levels of the Backrooms. Here's a bit of a breather for you. This level appears to be an empty office building. Well, mostly empty anyways. You will occasionally run into useful amenities, such as vending machines, water fountains, and even other people, if you get lucky. Level 4 has a very low entity count, so chances are you'll make it through this level completely unscathed. Now here's a blast from the past. Level 5 is an endless hotel complex that seems to be from the early 20th century. It's pretty spooky, and you can hear the ghostly echoes of partygoers of an era long since past, as well as whispers that come from seemingly nowhere. You may feel as though you're being watched, which is honestly a pretty valid concern, as the rooms are always dust-free and seem to clean themselves. The main area of this level is, aptly enough, named the main hall, and is actually comprised of many different hallways. Here you can find elevator shafts, electric lights disguised to look like wax candles, and hotel rooms that are mostly all locked, and are labeled random numbers that don't really seem to correlate to the rooms around them. The other important areas in this level are the Beverly Room, also known as the Eternal Ballroom, which is a large room that holds an unfinishable game of mahjong, and the boiler room, a highly industrial mess of machinery and piping. There's also supposedly a fourth area to this level, called the lobby room. However, everyone who's been here forgets how to find it after they leave, so its entrance remains a mystery. For those of you who are blind, this level will be pretty run-of-the-mill. For the rest of us, however, level 6 has a terrifying property of being completely dark, and with light sources not being able to function here, so much about this level remains highly mysterious. Heck, we don't even know how dangerous it is. While there's a chance you may be physically safe here from entities, the verdict's still out. This level is known for causing extreme hallucinations and dread, so really your biggest enemy here is your own mind. Freaky stuff if you ask me. After traveling through so many hallways and tunnels, you might think some open air would be a welcomed change of scenery, but not in this case. Level 7 is a massive ocean, as dangerous as it is vast. However, when you first enter this level, you'll be greeted by the sight of a small, flooded entrance room, which is actually tilted sideways, as this room has its own gravity. If you dare to venture out to the main area of level 7, you'll see the ocean, dotted with the occasional scraggy isle, lit by a mysterious, omnipresent glow that seems to radiate from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. This water expanse is almost entirely uncharted, as it's extremely dangerous. Considering how treacherous it is, you might imagine that this level is teeming with hostile entities, but in fact it's nearly completely devoid of life. This is due to the patrolling of two underwater entities, known as the Thing on level 7 and Tiny. Little is known about these creatures, but suffice it to say, it's really best if you don't find out, and make your time in level 7 as brief as possible. For level 8, it's back to the underground we go. Except this time, instead of bizarre perversions of human-made liminal spaces, you'll find an enormous cave system that seems to stretch on forever. This is the most perilous level we've encountered so far, and you can find many dangerous entities here, such as watchers, skin stealers, death moths, wretches, smilers, hands that will drag you into pools of tar, and that's barely even scratching the surface. If you make it out of this level alive, then congrats, you're one of the lucky ones. Initially, level 9 might look like the real world, but don't be fooled by how things appear upon first glance. The level is one massive suburb, shrouded in eternal midnight, dotted with puddles and populated by a plethora of dangerous creatures, some of which we've seen on other levels, others endemic to here. The most common place to find these entities is on the streets, so it's advised that you take shelter inside of a house as fast as you can, although be warned that occasionally two houses will be merged in impossible ways. This phenomenon occurs frequently the more further you are from where you initially enter the level. Remember, always play it safe, and don't leave a house unless you're actively looking for an exit. Okay, you can breathe now. Level 10 is a giant field of wheat, with puddles of almond water that spot the landscape, all of which are safe to drink. There's a dirt path that runs north to south, and while traversing it you'll notice barns, houses, and other buildings scattered across the foggy plains. If you follow the path long enough, you'll eventually run across a town, which, surprisingly, is fully inhabited by other humans. This is the safest part of this already safe level, so if you're looking for a place in the backrooms to settle down in without having to go through too many levels, this is a great spot. A word to the wise, try to avoid any medieval-looking towers and archers you may find here, as they could pose a threat to anyone passing by. One thing to note is that there's a peaceful creature known as a gluff here. Gluffs enjoy growing and harvesting wheat from the fields. They've also been known to play around in them and are very friendly. That's pretty cute. Overall, this is a very safe level, and it serves as a very welcome escape from the usual danger and scariness that characterizes most other levels of the Backrooms. This is the most Earth-like level we've seen so far. Level 11 is a sprawling metropolis that resembles a normal city with some noticeable differences. The sidewalks will occasionally lead to a dead end or clip through buildings, and the buildings themselves have nonsensical interiors, just to name a few anomalies. This level is stuck in eternal daytime, so it's quite safe, although if you see a nuclear power plant, then stay as far away from it as you can, as they tend to leak a deadly amount of radiation. An interesting quirk of this level is that you can find famous landmarks from cities in reality scattered around the area. Although this place is mostly devoid of entities, Some still visit here occasionally, so it's best to still be cautious, although chances are you'll make it to level 12 in complete safety. There really isn't much to say about this level. It's completely safe and is devoid of any entities, friendly or hostile. All it is a pure white space with only a table, chair, and a locked door. Any footage of this room corrupts, so if you thought there was something wrong with this video, then, well, you're right. Nobody knows how to escape this level. However, most people eventually do, and make it to level 13. Level 13 resembles an apartment building, and has a very high number of floors. It has stairways that lead to other stories, and elevators, which can only take you to other levels of the backrooms, and can't bring you to other stories in the building. While not the safest level, you can still technically live here. An entity will provide you with a room key at the lobby if you so wish. Just remember to keep your apartment lit at all times in order to avoid any unwanted encounters. Level 14 is a trap. You'll be led to believe it's a perfect paradise, but once you take the bait, there's no turning back. The information on this level has been corrupted by whatever entity occupies it, so there's very little we know about it concretely, other than that it looks like a crimson-colored forest, not to be confused with the Crimson Forest on sublevel 9.1, with the remains of previous explorers strewn throughout. Avoid this level at all costs. This level consists mainly of futuristic hallways made of white concrete. Large steel pillars support the various rooms, and strange reliefs decorate the walls. Aside from the hallways, you can also find engine rooms which contain machines of varying size and function, laboratories, storage rooms, and kitchens, just to name a few. The machines will sometimes be in various states of disrepair due to a lack of maintenance. While this level is entirely safe, there is evidence that not too long ago it was the site of a large battle, as corpses of humans can be found strewn across the floor in various areas of the level. As creepy as it may be, this is actually a great level to rest, resupply, and get geared up for level 16. This level is highly unstable, and is in a state of constant flux. Currently, it's an Arctic environment with luminous ice and relatively nice temperature. Well, for the Arctic at least. This level is so mysterious that its nature is very poorly understood, and it's likely that it will soon morph into something completely different in the near future. This level appears to be the interior of a naval aircraft carrier, except it stretches for a seemingly endless distance. It's moderately safe here, although you will occasionally see living replicas of people who have passed through here before you. While they won't actively harm you, their presence causes mental distress, so it's advised to stay clear from them. The other dangerous part of this level is the upper floors, which have an anomalous light emitting from behind the windows that slowly fill your lungs up with water, so be very careful when you're up there. Level 18 manifests itself as an early childhood memory from your past, generally in the setting of a preschool or daycare. Disembodied voices will whisper your deepest regrets, and deeply emotional memories that were locked away will come into the forefront of your mind. Other than these properties, level 18 is perfectly safe and even habitable. If you're lucky, you'll find the plush dino, who is very friendly and has a very calming aura. Not a bad level, all things considered. Upon entering level 19, you'll find yourself in a cramped and dingy attic-like space, full of clutter and in a state of disrepair. The attic stretches on for a very long time, and it's actually a series of different attic-like spaces. There may be some useful items here, however, there's a chance that they'll age rapidly and decompose right in your hand. This space may instill a sense of physical unwellness in an individual, even to the point of making one unconscious. Below the floorboards, you may find an orange glow that instills a sense of warmth and comfort. Beware of this, as it alters your memories to be connected to the glow in some capacity. It is for these reasons that traveling here is highly unadvised. Level 20 is a series of warehouse-like areas, and is devoid of any entities. The spaces come in two varieties, rooms and corridors. The rooms are filled with machinery, and the walls of the rooms are covered with an oily residue. The corridors are lined with racks, crates, and boxes, obscuring most of the walls in these areas. These usually contain dangerous items, and it's not advised you open any of the items here. Any bottles of fluid found here will contain the fluid found coating the walls of this level. It's a bit of a blast from the past in the sense it's similar to some of the earlier levels, but it's got its own unique qualities. Hallways, or hellways. When you arrive here, you'll find yourself on one of 4 long hallways that make up the layout of this level. The hallways change in shape and appearance constantly. However, you'll always be able to find doors lining the walls. These will either bring you to different levels of the backrooms, or to different parts of level 21. This level is full of dangerous entities, so if you happen to find yourself here, it's imperative you make your way to the middle of the level, as it's the only area here that's completely safe. Or maybe you could try to escape the level through one of the doors in the hallways, but who knows where you'll end up then. Here lies the ruins of a fallen civilization that once inhabited what is now a derelict, ruined car park. This society used to live inside large tents that were set up on the level, and their societal structure was arranged into a caste system, with lower floors supplying their goods to the upper floors. This system ultimately led to the nation's demise, and currently, the level is extremely treacherous to navigate, being littered with rubble, mined out and dilapidated support pillars, and deep holes, all of which make this level extremely dangerous, despite the fact that there are no entities here. Just be thankful if you make it out of here alive. Oh, and it probably goes without saying, but if you're in need of a car park, ignore this one and keep on driving. Welcome to the Petrified Garden, a living, planet-sized superorganism comprised primarily of intertwining trees. It's possible to travel through this level due to pockets of air and winding tunnels inside the level's surface, similar to a large cave system. This level is infested with entities, along with fauna that resembles real-life animals. Although it's bathed in constant sunlight from a nearby star, the dense canopy means almost no light gets through. Scattered among this level's dense forests are strange, geometric ruins that bear a resemblance to real ancient structures on Earth, but are often in a completely different shape to their Earth counterparts. Occasionally, under the surface, you can find open caverns lit by bioluminescent organisms, full of lush forests and overgrown flora. Diving deeper into this level, things get even stranger. In the planet's core, we see that the stability of this level is maintained by miles-high trees, and here live even denser and stranger plants and fungi. Some trees here grow into the core, some grow out of it. Beneath the floor of the core is the heart of this planetoid, and it consists of a massive reservoir of water, completely covered by the roots of the aforementioned massive trees. This spherical reservoir waters the entire level, and the moisture is transferred from this layer to higher ones through the trees, which soak up water from below and expel excess moisture above through vapor. As inhospitable as this level might be, I think we can all agree that it's one of the coolest ones we've seen so far. This level is known as the Study, but a more apt name might be the Moon. Here you'll find yourself standing on a model of the Moon in a scale model of the solar system, which from your perspective is the size of the real thing. Due to this, the room this model resides in appears incredibly blurry, although it's believed to be a Victorian-era study room. Occasionally you will see the blurry shape of a well-dressed man enter the room. For the most part, he's completely safe, not noticing you, since from his perspective you're a microorganism. But if he decides to clean his model solar system's moon, then it's time to say goodnight. Or, should I say, goodnight moon. Let's play a little game, shall we? At least that's what I would say if any of the games in this level actually worked. Level 25 is a collection of large, dusty rooms with damaged and non-functioning video game arcade machines filling much of the floor space. There are also some small hallways scattered across this level with occasional helpful items inside. However, most will be empty of anything useful. The arcade machines on this level are in varying states of disrepair, with the unifying factor of them being that they do not work anymore. However, there's an extraordinarily rare chance you'll find one that still functions, but it might not work in the way you expect. If you happen to find a quarter on the ground and put it into one of these functioning games, instead of providing a fun diversion from wandering around, it will actually transport you to a different level of the backrooms. This level isn't remotely dangerous. However, if walking around an abandoned arcade building isn't your thing, then perhaps it's best you give one of these working machines a try and hope you make it to another level. And may it not be level 26. If you wished the Backrooms was a bit more homey, then level 6 has granted your wish, in the worst way possible. When you initially enter this level, it'll look like you've no-clipped back to reality and are safe in your home. But exploring further into the level will reveal a very different picture. This level is a jumbled sprawl of urban house interiors, each one correlating to a house in the real world. These different interiors are joined in often impossible ways, and for this reason level 6 can be very hard to navigate. Useful items can be found scattered throughout this level. However, nowhere on this level is safe, as the entire area is infested with many dangerous entities. Even some of the windows will be entities. Some, however, will be genuine windows, but if you choose to exit through one, you'll be greeted by a hazy blue mist that fills what appears to be outdoors in the real world. Again, you're really still in the backrooms. This mist will eventually melt your eyes, so it's best not to be outside for too long. After being on a level with your home in it, it's pretty safe to assume you'll want to get back there even more. And now for something completely different. Welcome to the Bunker Springs, also known as level 27, and this area is completely safe from any entities. In fact, it's devoid of any life whatsoever, including bacteria for unknown reasons, although you might find other humans in this place. When you come here, you'll find yourself standing inside of a limestone cavern that contains a hot spring pool, 2 small waterfalls that feed it, and a small tunnel that funnels the water to outside the cavern. It's known that other caverns in this level exist, but this is the only one that is accessible. The water in the hot spring pool is perfectly safe. In fact, it's very beneficial to one's health, as bathing in it can heal minor injuries, and drinking it can clear your mind and give you stamina. However, staying in the pool for more than a couple hours can make you nauseous, although why you'd spend hours in 90-degree water is beyond me. All in all, it's a very pleasant level, and it provides a nice escape from the usual anxiety and danger most other backroom levels will give you. Welcome to level 28. This level has neither day nor night. Instead, it's constantly illuminated by a cloudy, dark blue sky. When you come here, you'll find yourself in the middle of a forested valley, which is lined by impossibly tall mountains. Between the mountains and the forested area lies the storm zone, which is made of an extremely flammable and explosive material that renders any exploration of the area unfeasible unless proper equipment is used. The plants here are also super flammable, but unlike the storm zone, isn't explosive. In the middle of this valley, you can find a dilapidated medieval castle atop a small hill. Inside these ruins lives the Blue Knight, an entity that claims to be friendly, but his true nature isn't known. He claims he just wants company, but something about this guy just doesn't sit right with me. I'd stay far away from him if I ever came to this place. If you don't have thalassophobia, meaning a fear of bodies of water, then you've clearly never been to level 29. Here you'll find a massive ocean filled with hundreds of deadly entities unique to this level, including the island-sized Kraken. Suffice it to say, the seas of this level are virtually unnavigable. The only hospitable area of this level is a large, mountainous island that rises out of the entity-infested sea. Looking from the outside, it appears craggy and desolate. However, between these mountains lie beautiful landscapes made of forests, hills, and plains. Prismatic, flowered hills paint many forest clearings a beautiful rainbow hue, and in some parts of the island there are small caves which are rich in valuable ores. This beautiful and fertile land is home to hundreds of communities, such as Hyperia, the island's main cultural and trading hub, which is located in the center of the island. Most of these towns are surrounded by acres of pastoral farmland, which feed each town's inhabitants. These settlements are completely safe from the dangerous ocean that characterizes the rest of the level, as the tall mountains act as a kind of buffer zone from the perilous sea and the entities that inhabit it. These towns are constructed out of a kind of wood unique to this land that is fire-resistant and stronger than most metals. Towns will often have differing governments and ideologies, so the island isn't exactly free of conflict. However, they all share the common goal of creating a great civilization. Honestly, if it wasn't for that crappy ocean surrounding it, I'd love to live here. Although granted, my current hometown isn't on an island surrounded by dangerous sea monsters, so on second thought, maybe I'll pass. Superficially, level 30 appears to be a collection of grassy islands floating in the air in what seems to be a skybox, blue and cloudy, very pleasant. But this couldn't be further from the truth. This entire level is a malevolent, sentient entity, which uses other entities called memory lurkers to project the facade of pleasant sky islands directly into your brain. This level will tell you to touch the memory lurkers, claiming they're gateways to paradise, but in actuality they'll kill you. Nice! There's no way of knowing the true physical reality of this level, since once you realize what you're seeing is a simulation, you'll instantly die. There's no known way to escape this level alive, so you'll really want to avoid this level at all costs. If you're a millennial, then this level might be a little nostalgic. Level 31 resembles a 90s roller rink that loops around if you go too far in any direction. There's also a kids rink here, if for some strange reason you're traveling through the backrooms with a child. When at the roller rink, you'll likely hear muffled pop songs being played by a faceless DJ. If you stay here long enough, you'll see a being that appears to be a lover from some point in your past. Unless you can resist their pleas to skate with them, which is very hard to do, you'll join them on the skating rink, and you'll skate with them until you fade out of existence. There are other dangerous entities that infest this level, just to warn you. If at any point you smell food from off in the distance, you can follow that scent and it'll bring you to the food court, which is operated by an entity who will serve you free food and drinks, all of which are safe to consume, by the way. Another helpful entity in this level is known as the coach, who can be found at the skate rental, and he'll happily give you roller skating lessons, advice on how to survive in this level, and he'll even tell you how to get out of this level. Seems like a cool guy. It's nice to have a homie around, especially in the back rooms. Oh, and by the way, there's an arcade here, if roller skating with deadly entities isn't exactly your thing. This level seems perfect for Halloween, except it's all tricks, no treats. Level 32 is an eerie dark forest populated by skeletons hanging from the tree branches that seem to whisper, or maybe it's just the wind. Aside from the skeletons, there's only one entity in this level. She will first appear to you as a Victorian-era woman with skeletal face paint who beckons you to come further into the woods. If you chase after her, you'll find her transformed into her other form, known as the Skeleton Queen. This form resembles a tall skeleton wearing a black dress. At this point, your fate is completely in her hands. Treat her with respect and she might just choose to let you live, but if you don't, you'll either be ripped from limb to limb by some nearby trees, or she'll let you run away for a bit, only to be swallowed whole by the ground beneath you. I think it's pretty safe to say that if there ever was an occasion to be overly respectful to someone, this would be it. This level appears to be a massive, sprawling shopping mall that goes for hundreds of miles, or maybe more. Initially, things won't appear too unusual. The lights will all work, and stores will either be barred off, or will have a good chance of having at least a few items in stock. Food courts will generally be empty, but thankfully this isn't always the case. However, the further you travel in any direction, the more destroyed and dangerous it will become, so it's advised you don't stray too far from where you first came in. If you roam the backrooms for long enough, sooner or later you're bound to end up here. Level 34 is a small, cramped sewer tunnel with no light sources present. It's full of entities, so if you think you see any up ahead, it's best to wait until you're sure they're gone before proceeding any further. The almond water that flows in these tunnels isn't safe to drink, but I probably don't need to tell you that. I mean, who drinks sewer water? Level 35 is a large, dimly lit parking complex that's surrounded by a black void. This level is known to have strange and sometimes catastrophic effects on vehicles if any are driven in here, so if for some reason you enter this level in your Mini Cooper, it's best to just park it somewhere else. There are exits all over this level, however getting too close to any of them will summon a swarm of driverless cars. Going any closer to the exits at this point will result in the cars rapidly accelerating toward you, with the intent of running you over so you can't escape. Talk about road rage. Welcome, passengers, to level 36. This appears to be a massive airport terminal, which is lined by many real-life businesses, much like in an actual airport. However, any food you might find here could be poisonous, and many kill you in as little as 30 minutes. Thankfully, the almond water found here is completely safe to drink. Beware of any exit doors in this level, as they could lead to places worse than the backrooms. If you want to escape this level, just exit one of the many gates which, fun fact, all have airplanes parked outside of them. Just avoid exiting through the Frontier Gate, as an entity might come out and attack you. I'd still take this over flying on real-life Frontier any day. This Backrooms level is a seemingly infinite jungle, populated by normal jungle animals, as well as some dangerous entities. The sky is usually purple, but can sometimes take on a bluish or lime-green hue. There's a path here that can take you to the different areas of this level. Just off the path is scattered the occasional physics-breaking building. You know, just normal backroom stuff. Taking a left fork on this path will take you to a waterfall with entities dressed like 1800s explorers at its base. Walking a little further down will lead you to an ancient ruined temple, made long ago by Mayans who entered the backrooms at some point in the distant past. Now, if instead you go down the right fork of the path, you'll eventually come across a cabin, Upon entering this cabin, there are 4 possible outcomes that could occur, each with an equal likelihood of happening. There's a chance nothing will happen, or you might find a staircase to level -1. You might also get a heart attack, feel your bones shatter, and promptly die. Not fun. The 4th possibility is you'll end up in a bar and the bartender will call you his most loyal customer. I think it's fair to say this level's pretty darn weird. Here's a crossover that absolutely nobody asked for. This level is an amalgamation of all previous levels into one incredibly bizarre level. It is chaos, absolute chaos, and I'm not even going to attempt to explain it, as it's far too bizarre to even put into words. However, it can generally be divided into an inside and outside area, but aside from that distinction, words fail at accurately describing the nature of this most mind-bogglingly strange level. These country roads might not take you home, but they'll take you somewhere just as nostalgic. Level 39 consists of a hilly oak forest, with aimlessly meandering dirt paths cutting through the landscape. This level is in a state of perpetual dusk, with a dark blue sky slightly illuminating the land. This level induces a strong sense of calm and nostalgia, but these effects can be overcome by drinking almond water. Furthermore, the farther out you are, the weaker these effects become. And if you wander out far enough, you'll reach the border. This area is flatter, more sparsely vegetated, and colder than the rest of the level, and the weather here is so crazy, with insane winds and dangerous storms, that going through here isn't an option. As someone who grew up near an area like this, I find it such a mood. I can confidently confirm that this level is a complete and utter vibe. I'm very happy to report to you gamers out there that we have yet another arcade level. Even better, the games here actually work for a change. Level 40 is an outer space-themed 80s arcade building that has many games from reality, and many which are exclusive to here. However, many of the games that exist only here have strange properties. For instance, a Pokemon knockoff called General Starflare Wild Space will literally make you vanish into thin air once you've gotten to a certain point in the game, so you'd be wise to avoid this game. There are also invisible entities, as well as some faceless humanoids that play these games too, in the same fashion people would. Pretty spooky. Although if you leave them alone, then you're totally in the clear. You can sometimes find vending machines here, and while the food within is technically safe to consume, it happens to be coated with a glowing, sparkly green sauce, which once consumed will make you think you're a space cadet. Weird. Oh, and there's also a working bowling alley somewhere in this level, if arcade games aren't really your thing. And if you walk far enough in this level, you can find a super chill entity at a receptionist desk named Pat, who loves to chat. Fun fact, that actually rhymes. So if you ever find yourself in this level, then have fun, or don't, I really don't care. Just as long as you don't accidentally kill yourself by playing a Pokemon ripoff. I hope you brought a flashlight, because you're really going to need one here. Level 41 resembles a dark sewer system consisting of rooms that are constantly changing, so you won't ever enter the same room twice. Eerie whale-like sounds emanate from an unknown source, and entities are incredibly common here. This level is divided into 2 stages, a red stage and a blue stage. The red stage is incredibly dangerous, and the entities are incredibly hostile. However, in the blue stage, the entities will let you be, for the most part at least. Separating these 2 sections is an eerie room that looks like a kindergarten classroom that's actually devoid of entities and is therefore the safest part of this level. Alright, class dismissed. Let's move on to the next level. Here's an explosive entry. Level 42 of the Backrooms is comprised of extremely dense forests, which surround a large, active volcano in the middle of the level. Time and space don't behave as they should here, leading to this level being highly disorientating. Almost no light hits the ground due to this forest's dense canopy. However, this canopy won't protect you from the deadly acid rain that plagues the entirety of this level. It's very cold here. However, above the canopy layer, temperatures are scorchingly hot. Being in such close proximity to an active volcano, the entire atmosphere of this level is highly toxic and reactive, almost like it's a physical manifestation of cancel culture. Despite the lack of dangerous entities, you really can't stay in this level for too long before you suffocate from the poisonous air, get smothered by a volcanic rock flung from the volcano, perish during an acid rain shower, and this is barely even scratching the surface. You could probably write a whole video essay on all the ways to die here, but that's not what I'm here to do, so let's go onwards to the next level. Welcome to Waterworld, an eerie, abandoned aquarium theme park full of strange and mysterious things. There are 4 main areas to this level, each subsequent one being more dangerous and entity-infested than the last. When you first come to this level, you'll find yourself outdoors, and there's a confusing mess of meandering sidewalks that don't seem to go anywhere in particular. However, if you follow these for long enough, you'll eventually come to the outside of the aquarium park. It seems dilapidated, and in the middle is a large dome. Heading into this area will bring you to the main building, which is the second area of this level, and is where the aquatic creatures are housed. Some of these animals will be familiar species, others completely unknown. This building seems very run down, and occasionally phantom-like entities will come into this area and admire the sea creatures, eventually leaving just as soon as they came. Wandering away from this area for long enough will bring you to the third area, labeled Staff Only. Here you'll find stone brick hallways lined by piping and lit by dim orange lights. There are rooms with office equipment within that can be found here. Any computer within these rooms will all contain footage of a man being consumed by a terrifying fish-like creature. Watching this video will trigger a massive wave to flood the vicinity and sweep you into the fourth area of this level, where you'll find the same fish-like creature you saw in the video. All of the tanks in the building will appear to have broken, and the creatures within will be freely swimming about the newly flooded building. Reality kind of warps at this point, and both you and the creatures will be able to breathe water and clip through walls. This is the most dangerous part of the level, so unless you want to end up like the guy in the security footage, avoid this place at all costs. Although I do admit, having the ability to float through walls and breathe underwater does sound pretty cool. Initially, level 44 will somewhat resemble level 0 of the Backrooms, minus the incessant humming of the lights. But the longer you're there, the more you'll realize that this place is far, far stranger than level 0 was. This level takes on the shape of an empty retail outlet, desolate and with some of the overhead lighting not functioning properly. The darkest areas may hold any number of dangerous entities. A strange black liquid corrodes many parts of this level. The further out you wander, the less the laws of Euclidean physics will apply, and the more impossible it will become to properly navigate. There are windows that can occasionally be found in this level. By looking outside of them, you can glimpse moving images of reality, tantalizingly close yet impossible to reach. Sometimes a shadowy entity will appear outside of these windows. This entity is harmless, however it will attempt to warn you of some unknown being that poses a threat to the Backrooms and all of reality. Not terrifying in the slightest. In the Backrooms, New York ain't such a wonderful town after all. The layout of this level consists of buildings suspended in a pitch-black void, rotated at strange angles, all encircling a replica of New York City's Empire State Building in a radial pattern. Death moths live in the outer and darker buildings of this level, but are kept to a minimum thanks to their predator here, a glowing yellow bird known as a curabatur. The only way to travel between buildings is through fire escapes, but unless you're looking for an exit, I have no idea why you'd want to explore this wacky place. This realm of extremes looks just like the Arabian desert back on Earth, except temperatures get hot enough to kill a human during the day, and cold enough to freeze someone to death during the night. If you ever find yourself in this level, seek refuge in the nearest ancient ruin. These structures were built by people who became trapped in the Backrooms long ago, and their dwellings have livable temperatures within their walls. However, at dawn the outside world is safe to explore. This level's time of day randomly fluctuates between day, night, and dawn, with seemingly no consistent pattern. But be careful to avoid sandstorms, as they can be dangerous and bring with them hostile sand spirits. If you're out wandering and spot a sandstorm, the best thing to do is to seek shelter at a nearby oasis. So the next time you feel like complaining about the temperature, just be grateful you're not stuck here. Unless you are stuck here, in which case, how are you even watching this video? Like, please, I want to know. Here on level 47, you will find a primeval old-growth forest with massive trees that, with the help of a thick layer of fog that occurs during the day, blocks all direct sunlight from hitting the forest floor. The stream water found here is safe to drink, and some, but not all, of the mushrooms in this forest are safe for consumption. This level doesn't obey normal laws of spacetime, and aside from the area you're actively observing, the forest is in a state of superposition, existing in every physically possible state at once. This means that if you leave an item or physically alter an area and come back to it later, all traces you were ever there will likely be gone. The most dangerous things to look out for during the daytime are snakes, for while these aren't exactly dangerous per se, accidentally hurting or killing one will summon a gigantic adder, which will proceed to hunt you down and kill you. Yikes. At night, the fog will clear, and you'll be able to make out the night sky through some of the canopy above. During this time, your biggest dangers are black, dog-like entities that will hunt you down if they find you. For this reason, it's highly advised that you spend nights up in a tree until it's daytime and they go back into their dens. You can also find elk in these woods, which are only aggressive if they're with their young. They sound like good parents to me. After coming to this level of the Backrooms, you might never want to return to reality again. When you come to level 48, you'll find yourself on a beautiful tropical beach at sunset. The sun never changes its position, constantly illuminating the land with its radiant, warm glow. Away from the beach, you can find a tropical rainforest, and here there are many edible plants, friendly animals, and beautiful vegetation. On some parts of the beach, you may find luxury homes and hotels. These have all the comforts their real-world counterparts would have, such as various appliances, furniture, and air conditioning. This level has a certain beauty in its eloquence. There's no danger, no evil entities, no strings attached whatsoever, just a beautiful paradise that's free from all trouble and worry. I can guarantee you that as soon as I'm done recording this video, I'll pack up all my swimsuits and move straight here. Like, immediately. Now we're going to take a complete 180 from the previous level. When you enter level 49, you'll find yourself in the trenches of what resembles a World War I battlefield, with the bodies of fallen soldiers littering your surroundings. There are faceless soldiers in your trench who don't seem to recognize you exist. You'll notice an eerie lack of fighting. However, if you decide to investigate and leave the trench, you'll be shot with thousands of rounds of bullets. Very rarely a bomber plane might fly overhead. If this happens, then it's imperative that you seek shelter in one of the dugouts lining the trench. The most important thing to remember here is to not let shell shock set in, because if it does, well, you'll become one of them. Congrats! You've made it halfway through the first 100 levels of the Backrooms. But don't celebrate just yet, because this next level is a doozy. Level 50 consists of a never-ending 4-lane highway that crosses a scorching desert. The eerie thing about this level is that there are vehicles in the lanes that appear to be frozen in time, with no drivers in sight. The only vehicles which are safe to enter are mobile homes, and these can be used as an area to rest and rejuvenate your stamina. Be warned, there are what appear to be humans or human-like entities that roam this highway, and they're very dangerous. There's plenty of strange phenomena that can occur here that hasn't been documented yet. So if you ever find yourself here, just be careful, right? May the gods be with you on level 51. Here you will find yourself in an ancient Greek labyrinth spanning for countless miles. There are holes dotted across the ceiling that lead to other levels. Death rats can be found roaming this maze, but if you ever see them fleeing away, then you'll know an even greater enemy is afoot. The entity I speak of is the Minotaur, which will hunt you down with its excellent sense of hearing and superhuman speed. If by some miracle you end up finishing the maze, you'll wind up at an ancient lost city. Some districts of the city are infested by monsters, however the center area is completely safe. Traveling a little further will bring you to an area with doors that lead to different levels of the Backrooms. This was once used as the main hub for the Backrooms long ago. You gotta hand it to the ancient Greeks, they sure knew how to get around. Good morning, class. Level 52 is an extremely long school hallway, with lockers lining the edges. After wandering for a bit, you'll be able to hear the voices of entities known as teachers and students behind the doors of the classrooms. No entities in this level are hostile, although this wasn't always the case. After walking a ways further, none of the lights will work, and you'll get a paranoid feeling that you're being watched. Soon after, you'll find an entity known as the Principal, who, like the other entities here, isn't hostile. However, if you do something to anger him, then he'll take you to his office and lecture you about how what you did was wrong, and then calls your mother about it, apparently. The entities in this level all show signs of PTSD, and this is due to an event that occurred here in the not-so-distant past, known as the Fun War. It was fought between the friendly party poopers and the evil partygoers. Ultimately, the partygoers won, and the party poopers subsequently went extinct. Well, that concludes our tour of level 52. Class dismissed. There really isn't much to say about this level. Some guy was in his house one day, and it randomly no-clipped out of reality and into level 53, the Backrooms. He escaped the confines of the house eventually, but he still lives here, since he's stuck in the Backrooms. Poor guy. Moving speedily along. Down we go. Level 54 is a long, descending spiral staircase that seems to go on forever. This level is highly decrepit and run down. There aren't too many entities in this level, although some can be found here, so one should always be careful when exploring here. At a certain point down the stairwell, you'll find a strange blue orb that emits ocean sounds, and near that, a crashed train in the wall. There are some doors lining the staircase that will either take you to other Backrooms levels, or lead to hallways. These hallways contain doors to mostly empty rooms. Outside some of the windows of these rooms, you'll see an ocean, which coats the entire room in a bluish light. However, it's always important to stay wary of windows in the back rooms, as some will literally kill you. I swear I'm not making this up. Just something to keep in mind. Grab your shopping cart, because now we're going to Backrooms level 55. This level resembles a supermarket, but strangely only contains freezer aisles. These aisles appear to be from various different decades, spanning from the 1950s to now. The space here is non-Euclidean, meaning it can't be navigated in the same way you would a normal three-dimensional space. Also, while the food here appears fresh and in good condition, it still isn't recommended that you eat it. Just a word to the wise. Some entities to look out for here are red freezers and gold freezers. Seriously, these can be extremely dangerous. Creatures composed of an unknown frozen liquid that can be found walking around here, and guard dogs. However, giving these dogs something of sentimental value will prompt them to lead you to this level's exit. Although they can't always be trusted, as their true loyalty lies to the gold freezers, which they guard in the aisles. Weird, I know, but hey, we've all got our quirks. I think we can all agree that recycling is generally a good thing. However, level 56 might just take the concept a bit too far. This level is comprised of fully functioning machines that produce materials and items found all over the backrooms, such as fluorescent lights, wallpaper, concrete, glass, and so on. Sounds pretty dandy so far, but the materials these machines use to produce these products might just make your stomach turn. Let me give you a hint. Corpses. Dead, human corpses. I know, pretty horrific. These machines are guarded by creatures called wretches, and if you approach them, they won't hesitate to attack you. This level is overseen by an entity known as, appropriately enough, the Overseer, who watches the entire level from a frosty window up high. I mean, his industry is resourceful, but man is it abominable. Here's a curious entry. When you first enter level 57, you'll find yourself in a relatively normal-looking art gallery, with one exception. The paintings here all depict various different scenes in the back rooms, even some displaying entire level floor plans. Eventually you might find an area called the studio, where you'll meet the artist behind these paintings. She's a friendly entity, who appears to be a pretty young woman, the only unusual feature about her being the indiscernible color of her eyes. Strangely, she doesn't seem to know anything about the back rooms, despite the fact that all her paintings in the gallery depict them. Even stranger, all of her work-in-progress paintings located in her studio depict the real world, despite the fact that this isn't the case for any of her finished work. If any of this gets too weird for you, she'll happily lead you to an exit for the next level. Level 58 is a huge, decaying water park, and here you can find sporadically placed tropical trees, which feed this level's local inhabitants, a tribe of Neanderthals. This tribe got trapped here tens of thousands of years ago, and survives on the fruits of the tropical trees. They've made primitive machines to harvest the trees and their fruit, such as knives, juicers, and axes. The tribe isn't hostile, so long as you approach them slowly and respectfully. When you enter level 59, you'll find yourself in an area that looks like the London Underground, except with the conspicuous absence of trains. It links up between different railways. Entities are rare here but can still be found on occasion. Strong gusts of wind can occasionally be felt, which emanate from an area known as the tunnels, which can be accessed by going to any subway station. These areas are putrid with the stench of corroded metal, and are infested by a menagerie of hostile entities. When in the subway, you can occasionally find a map of the area on a bench, which will show you how to exit this level. I guess paper maps are still relevant after all. After exploring the back rooms for what feels like an eternity, your clothes probably are worse for wear. Luckily, level 60's got you covered. Here you'll find a retro laundromat complex filled with fully functional washing machines and dryers, as well as vending machines. To use any of the machines in this level, you'll need special coins, which can be obtained by breaking open any washer or dryer. There are no entities here, so you're free to relax, put your dirty clothes in the wash, and let level 60 do its magic. All aboard! When you first enter level 61, you'll find yourself inside of an infinitely long train with a modern interior that appears to be moving along its tracks, judging by the scenery going by outside the windows. In this area of the train, you're completely safe, and you'll be able to find a friendly entity called the conductor here. Traveling further down the train, you'll notice peaceful entities that resemble humans, but aren't. Be warned, however, for the further you walk through the interior of the train, the more dangerous entities there will be, and the more old-fashioned the interior will appear. Beware of camo crawlers, skin stealers, and hounds that patrol these further back areas. And yes, you can jump out of one of the train doors. This will take you to a different level of the backrooms. Once you enter this level, you'll find yourself inside of a backyard that's overgrown with vegetation. There's a friendly dog here, which is pretty great. The house is surrounded by brick walls that are impossible to climb over. However, one of these walls has a hole in it, which leads to a vast jungle. Little is known about what's contained within this jungle, so if you'd like to explore here, then proceed with caution. After spending some time on level 63, your mental health might be even better than it was before you had entered the backrooms. Level 63 is a series of connected wooden bridges, ladders, and rails that float in a void, surrounded by a tranquil, blue, cloud-spotted sky. There are even designated meditation points, which are platforms with benches that will really help you align your chakras, and probably your back too, unless you prefer to sit on the floor like a weirdo. There are no hostile entities here, just you, the sky, and the wooden structure you're standing on. Oh, and there are also vines in the distance that form mesmerizing and ever-changing patterns, so that's nice. And don't worry about falling off the bridges, because if you do, you'll just fall safely on another level of the backrooms. Pretty neat. Anybody home? Level 64 appears to be the interior of a house that fluctuates between phases. A dark phase, where the house is infinite and infested with entities, and a bright stage, where the interior is finite, and all the lights work, and it's basically just an average house interior. When the house is in this stage, it is possible to exit. There really isn't much of interest to say about this stage, so instead, I'll discuss the other one. When the house is in its dark stage, lights and light sources don't work. The whole area is patrolled by dangerous, humanoid worm-like entities. The house will be crowded with a plethora of items, often placed in ways that are physically impossible. You may find rooms with bizarre characteristics, such as voids, upside-down hallways, or piles of synchronized ticking clocks. Let's just hope you arrive during the bright stage, because it would suck to make it 64 levels into the backrooms, just to be killed by a worm. This level is straight up the stuff of nightmares. Level 65 contains a foggy expanse of deciduous trees populated by man-eating centipedes that are larger than the average human. There are apple trees that contain fruit filled with a blood-like substance. Eating one of these apples will turn you into one of the giant centipedes. There are caves here that resemble a throat and can swallow you whole, so you probably shouldn't hide underground on this level, however tempting it might be. There's also a sentient stump here that will alter your perception of reality, making everything around you appear hellish and terrifying. Touching it will give you burns that will never heal, and it will even telepathically communicate with you, mostly incoherently. I'd love to tell you more background information on this entity and how it came to be, but truthfully, I'm just as stumped as you are. Pun fully intended. Level 66 resembles an Everglades swamp full of alligators, skin stealers, death moths, wretches, camo crawlers, and rodents of unusual size. The only man-made structures are a small shack and a cargo plane, all of which contain some useful resources. If you ever hear sirens, then the swamp will suddenly become more dangerous. The swamp will fill up with toxic gas, and figures in gas masks will chase after you, beckoning you to join them. I'm not a huge swamp person, but I'd definitely take a Florida swamp over this any day. This level of the backrooms might cause you to never look at bakeries the same again. Level 67 looks like an 80s bakery, custom tailored to your personal taste, and with pastries that generally appeal to you. You will see a line of entities waiting their turn to order food. If you get in line, then don't cut ahead, or else the others waiting their turn will assault you. Once at the counter, be sure not to order a pastry you love, as these will kill you, or a pastry you hate, these will make you nauseous. Instead, choose one you're neutral about, pay for your order, and make your way to the eating area. This part is completely safe. There are also some female entities in the bakery that can help you out and lead you to an exit, which I highly recommend you do. Not sure why you want to hang around at a place like this, but hey, to each their own. Level 68 resembles the interior of a New England movie theater complex. There are hallways which lead to the theater rooms. Sitting in one of the chairs in these rooms will cause you to be stuck to it, and you'll be subjected to a highly graphic film on the screen. Once the film ends, you'll get a violent seizure due to shock and to die. Personally, I think the worst part of this level is the lack of popcorn, but the whole death thing sounds pretty awful too. Now we've reached level 69. First of all, let me just say, nice. Second of all, this level is no laughing matter, and any jokes about its number are not cool in the slightest. Also, there are no pictures available for this level, so as visual filler, I'll use this screenshot from a recent Curtis Connor video, which also happens to be my desktop wallpaper. Anyways, when you first come to level 69, you'll find yourself inside of a car. This is the only safe place here, so don't leave it unless you absolutely have to. Your surroundings appear to be that of a foggy highway, with tall walls lining its sides. Aside from the usual Backrooms entities, some beings exclusive to this level are the beings from above, enormous crab or spider-like entities that emerge from the darkness above to scoop you up with their legs, and non-corporeal whispers which will fill your head with invasive thoughts. One good thing about this level is that your car can be driven and won't need to be filled with gas. Pretty sweet. However, if I wanted a free car, I'd just simply go and sing a taping of Oprah. I'm pretty sure her shows are far less deadly than this level. Level 70 is a dusty, depot-like area with storage containers in its walls. Within these storage containers are nostalgic items from your past, such as favorite toys and game consoles. However, interacting with these items can injure or kill you, so it's best to leave these areas alone. Entities can be found here, but thankfully they are very rare to encounter. Just stay away from the storage containers and you'll probably be good. This level appears to be a massive, unfinished basement with very few walls and scaffolding being a common sight. It's pitch black down here, so you're going to need to bring a light source if you want to see anything. Strange, shadowy entities can be found here, along with more common backrooms creatures. Very little is known about these enigmatic entities, so I'd stay as far away from them as I could if I were you. This level resembles a train station, specifically the London Overground. There are trains that don't work here, and small buildings with fresh supplies of almond water within. There's another section of this level, known as the Underpass, which resembles a small engine room. This is the only area here that contains entities, so as long as you stay clear from this part of the level, you should be all good. This level is pure insanity. When you come here, you'll find yourself on a dark island, surrounded by a denser concentration of entities than you've seen on any other level so far. There is a castle in the distance, which is the only safe area of this level. Even if you ran here from the get-go, you'd still be lucky to reach it alive. This castle is owned by an entity named Corin. Corin is friendly and will let you stay in his castle, for his mission is to vanquish the entities that could harm you and to keep you safe. The interior of his castle is lavishly decorated, and has all the conveniences you might need, including a guest room. There's no known way out of this level, but Corin will make sure your stay is pleasant until he discovers a way for you to escape. What this level lacks in physical danger, it sure makes up for in psychological hazard. When you first enter level 74, you'll find yourself in a hallway, with the entrance to a theater nearby. Upon entering the theater, you'll see familiar faces you've met in reality populating the audience, all of whom are intently watching the stage. On the stage, you'll see performers dancing out specific actions which are believed to represent certain things seen in dreams. Eventually, all the figures in the room will suddenly vanish, both the audience and performers, leaving you in there, alone. You will begin to see strange things out of the corner of your eye and perceive terrifying visual distortions. While all these things seem completely real, they're nothing but hallucinations and can absolutely not harm you in the slightest. Overall, this is probably the most disturbing experience you can have in a theater, other than watching a production of Cats. Now that would be horrifying. This level consists of randomly meandering caverns, entirely composed of the element known as gallium. This is a soft metal that can turn to liquid in even the slightest heat. Unfortunately, these caverns can often get over gallium's melting point, meaning you could become suffocated by an avalanche of liquid metal at a moment's notice. For this reason, it is recommended that you exit this level as quickly as possible. Back to the tunnels we go. Level 76 is a labyrinth of sewer-like tunnels that vary in length and appearance. These tunnels can resemble a variety of settings, such as a hotel pool, an abandoned factory, and even more horrific things. Some areas are rife with a pungent sulfuric scent, so it's advised to avoid these areas. Watch out for glowing eyes in the dark, because if you don't stay away from them, they might just be the last thing you ever see. Level 77 is a very short level, which looks like the interior of a London Underground train. I think I'm detecting a bit of a theme with some of these levels. Electronic signs on the wall will read unknown position, although this level is believed to be located within a portion of level 72. In the cockpit near where you first enter is an entity who appears to be the train conductor, who, despite being alive, remains completely motionless at all times. As you walk away from this area and down the train, you'll notice the interior changes color every 5 cars. Each color designates the presence of a specific entity that inhabits it, such as skin stealers, faceless humanoids, and wretches, among many others. This level's honestly kinda dull, so it'd be best if we moved on to the next one. Level 78 won't fly you to the moon, but it'll certainly let you play among the stars. Upon arriving here, you'll find yourself inside a space station with a similar design style to the International Space Station that extends in 4 directions. There's no gravity here, which shouldn't be a surprise since you're in space. Looking outside the windows, you won't see any sun or planets, but you will observe a universe of stars with varying colors, sizes, and luminosities. Inside the station, the equipment will all be in a heavy state of disrepair, and hydroponic gardens on this level may contain plants that are withered and dried up. However, the plants in other garden rooms may be overgrown, providing a peculiar contrast. There are working pod bays that can lead you to outside of the station. However, you really shouldn't go through them, since the spacesuits here are critically damaged, much like everything else in this level. Entities can occasionally be found here, so it's important to keep an eye out for any at all times. If you look outside the window too long, you might hear disembodied singing that beckons you to join it, but this must be ignored at all cost. I mean, regular sirens are scary enough, but space sirens? Oh, that's freaky. On this level, you'll find yourself on a small field of grass, in the center of which lies a 2-story tower. This building is believed to be the guest house of that guy whose entire home no-clipped into the backrooms that we talked about a little while back. Inside, you can find useful amenities, such as mattresses, a kitchen full of almond water, and various different rooms. If you go around 100 meters from the front of the building, you'll find the start of a wheat field, but this can only be reached by closing your eyes and hopping 45 degrees to your left on 1 foot. This wheat field is the only area of the level that has entities, however, for some reason they are completely unable to see or notice you. Pretty weird. Also, a little ways behind the tower is a forest that functions as an exit to this level. Honestly, this is a pretty sweet level, and although there's not much to do here, it's nice being in a backrooms level where you know you're safe from hostile entities or dangerous environments. Continuing on the trend of safe backrooms levels, we now reach level 80. Upon arriving here, you'll find a seemingly infinite highway stretching across a very cold desert. There will also be mountains to one side that resemble the Himalayas from Earth. This highway will eventually loop back on itself, hence its seemingly endless length. However, if you travel up ahead, you can come across an abandoned settlement that, according to a nearby signpost, seems to have been called Nedgul. It's formed out of a series of caravans, and human remains are extremely common here. Inside the caravans are containers that sometimes contain artifacts, which appear to span from the 1100s to the 1980s, all seeming to have come from Central Asia. No one knows what happened to these people, and what ultimately led to their fate will likely remain a mystery. Did you know animals can no-clip into the backrooms as well? While humans will usually start off in the first 3 levels, other creatures will enter the backrooms through level 81. This level consists of a large cluster of office buildings, with the outside area being overcast and dark, and lit by a greenish glow. The interior of these buildings varies in architectural style and decor, but all share bizarre features, such as walls clipping through each other and vertical hallways. At first things will be eerily silent, but wandering for a bit will take you to the areas full of animals, which can be seen through the various different office windows. Not all these animals will be safe, however, since some will be apex predators, such as tigers and polar bears. Hostile entities also roam this level, so beware of any you might run into. Just remember you're in the backrooms, not a petting zoo, and you should be good. As dangerous as level 82 generally is, the area you first enter will be completely safe and devoid of entities. You'll find yourself in a mansion containing many well-lit, albeit heavily ransacked rooms. A nearby plaque telling of a great treasure can be found, although said treasure is nearly impossible to get to, for various reasons I'll elaborate upon imminently. If you decide to explore through different doors in search of the treasure, some properties will increase the further out you go, those being the entity count, the decrepitness of the interior, and doors having a chance to lead you to different, increasing more dangerous areas. At a certain point, you'll hear whispers that try to unhinge you by reminding you of your worst fears and traumas. These voices are to be ignored as much as possible. Eventually, you'll reach claustrophobic corridors so tight you'll have to crawl through them, and making it through this area will bring you to the last known area, which is described by those who have entered it as darkness, insanity, and pain. It's safe to assume that nobody has yet found the treasure, and perhaps nobody ever will. Our journey through the backrooms now brings us to the bottom of the ocean floor, inside of a sunken nuclear submarine. Thankfully, this interior is pretty nice, with sleeping quarters, fully functional lighting, and fridges with an unlimited supply of food contained within. Judging by notes scattered across the submarine, this place used to be owned by a being known simply as Kira, who has since abandoned this area. Outside of the windows, one can observe what on the whole seems to be pretty conventional sea life, consisting mainly of fish. However, sometimes a colossal creature can be seen, known as the Great Observer. This massive entity enjoys staring at you with its enormous eyes, occasionally hitting the hull of the vessel, much in the same way a human might tap a fish tank. However, this entity is completely harmless, and its only interest is to simply observe. Still creepy though. Level 84 is an expansive hedge maze, filled with light fog and occasional hostile entities. Climbing the walls of this maze is impossible. The only way to traverse this labyrinth is to walk through its randomly meandering twists and turns. Random rooms can be found that look like various types of rooms that can be found within a typical suburban house, all in various states of disrepair. Occasionally, one can come across safe zones that are devoid of all hostile entities. These resemble parks, with concrete walkways and trees dotted throughout. Loot crates can randomly appear here that contain valuable items, such as almond water and weapons, along with other materials. However, sometimes these safe zones have extremely anomalous properties, which includes but is not limited to containing an angel statue that actually cries, temperatures as cold as the Arctic, unusually colored flora, and even an infestation of hostile entities. I know, that kind of contradicts the term safe zone, but expecting logical consistency from the Backrooms is like expecting quality from a Disney remake. It probably won't happen. Once you enter level 85, you'll find yourself on board a gigantic ship that's floating in a seemingly endless sea. It's fully operational, even having fully stocked cannons, but due to its size, the ship requires a crew of several dozen people in order to sail, so unless you've been traversing the backrooms with your entire squad, you probably won't be able to properly man it. The Kraken can occasionally be spotted in these waters. However, unlike the ones from level 29, this one is friendly, even playful, in nature. Storms can occasionally ravage the boat, so to prevent it from getting damaged, it's best if you tie up the sail and turn the vessel so it faces the direction the winds are blowing. You can also sometimes run across other unmanned ships, but these won't pose any threat to you, so long as you don't fire a cannon at it. It's like I always say, don't fire at a ghost ship, or it will return your fire manyfold. It's a pretty common saying in my household. I don't know about yours. Level 86 resembles an office building, and is mostly devoid of aggressive entities. The first floor appears to be a clean, modern lobby with many different rooms throughout. These include a computer lab, elevators that lead to higher floors, and even a restaurant, run by passive entities who will be happy to serve you food. If you go up the elevator, you'll notice that many higher floors are filled with cubicles and corridors that are laid out in nonsensical ways. However, there are some floors which are particularly interesting, such as an art gallery and a hostile group of French folk who got stuck in the backrooms during the late Middle Ages. Très bizarre. The top floor is spacious and contains files and currently unknown and unexplored backrooms levels. Man, I'd give just about anything to read what's in there. This level consists of long hallways, lined with locked doors. Keys can occasionally be found on sporadically placed tables that will unlock a corresponding door in this level. Beware of doors with glitter on them, as they contain partygoers. Very rarely, you might be able to find past or future versions of yourself wandering the halls. Avoid these iterations of yourself at all cost, because you really don't want to create any paradoxes. Seriously, don't even try. Like, it could get Back to the Future bad. Here, we come to yet another level of endless hotel hallways. However, what makes this level unique are the occasional special rooms that are really quite bizarre. One of these rooms is a bedroom that's incredibly alluring. However, if you sleep here, smilers will get you. Another is a mysterious science lab with every book inside being written in an unknown language. There's even a room that leads you into a dark forest before taking you to level 63. This is only scratching the surface, and many other kinds of strange rooms can be found in these halls. Pretty cool. Upon entering this level, you'll find yourself outside of a 1940s ice cream parlor, surrounded by cherry trees and flowers. The interior is in pristine condition and has full tubs of ice cream behind the counter that are completely safe to eat, and they will replenish themselves regularly. On the walls of the interior, you can find pro-party pooper propaganda posters that pertain to the Fun War, which points to the possibility that this place was previously populated by the prior mentioned party poopers. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Occasionally, humanoid entities can be seen coming in from time to time to purchase ice cream, but thankfully they don't seem to be hostile. I mean, unless you, attack them. But let's be real, if you go around the backrooms assaulting passive entities, then you kind of deserve what's coming to you. So this one's actually pretty sweet. Level 90 used to be really bad, and I mean really horrifically bad. It once was a torture labyrinth, infested with death rats at every corner. However, recently a group of people known as the Backrooms Remodeling Company refurbished it into a completely livable, entity-free house, fit with 2 stories, plenty of space, and a backyard. Currently the group is looking to sell this place. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to stick with the beach houses on level 48. Here's a question for you. What's more boring than Kentucky? Well, Kentucky without any cities, towns, and in black and white. This adequately describes level 91 of the Backrooms, which resembles the real-life terrain of a portion of the Indiana-Kentucky border, and is colored in monotone shades of gray, white, and black. This area is mostly devoid of entities. However, a strange, shadowy figure wearing a wide-brimmed hat will stalk you from a distance if you get lost. Doesn't sound much different from the regular Kentucky, honestly. Alright, moving on. Upon arriving at level 92, you'll find yourself standing at the base of a flight of glowing, crimson stairs. If you decide to ascend the staircase, you'll notice some soft jazz music in the distance, which can frequently be heard in this level. You'll start to feel paranoid, as if you're being watched by someone or something. Once you've made it to the top, you'll find a door. Opening it will lead to a hallway with more doors leading to rooms on either side. Entering one of these doors will trigger random events that occur within these rooms. These events consist of a variety of scenarios, all taking place within these rooms, and consisting of 1 to 3 or more human-looking entities. Whispered voices will prompt you what to do in these scenarios, and if you don't heed what they tell you to do, then you'll likely pass out and wake up on a different level of the Backrooms. Sometimes you can see shadowy figures in different places recording you with a camera, which will obviously only heighten your anxiety of being watched. I guess not even the Backrooms is safe from the curse of reality TV. To quote a Reddit user speaking of this level, if a level kills entities which want you dead, you know you're going to be in for something. This accurately sums up level 93's hostility. This level comprises a seemingly baseless mountain that resembles Mount Everest. Scaling this mountain is much like exploring the aforementioned Mount Everest. The higher up you go, the colder and less oxygenated it gets. This level is devoid of entities due to its hostile climate. The weather here can range from moderately cold with light snow to catastrophically stormy and as cold as the Antarctic. There's also an extremely low chance you could witness the mountain erupt. However, again, this is extremely unlikely. But hey, you never know. If you ever thought stop-motion animation was creepy, then this Backrooms level will certainly validate your sentiment. Here, you'll find a bizarre town stretching across rolling hills, consisting of very tiny houses that look straight out of 1930s era stop-motion animated film. Vintage cars, milk vans, and a water tower can be found around this area too. There are even poles that will sometimes play upbeat vintage cartoon music. This area is safe during the daytime. However, at night many Backrooms entities, including this level's native creature called the Animations, come out. Animations are what look to be life-size stop-motion animation characters, who will hunt you down and kill any living thing that doesn't appear to be animated. Unless you happen to be Wallace or Gromit, this will likely put you in extreme peril.
Not even I would enter this Backrooms level, lad.
However, there is a way out of this place. In the distance you will see what appears to be a castle floating on a semi-transparent hill, and upon entering it, you'll find yourself in what appears to be a very strange funhouse. Robomen will guard the castle, and if you interact with anything in here, they will attack. Eventually, you will find the throne room, which holds an entity known as the Animation King. He will put you through a test of endurance by subjecting you to your worst nightmares in stop-motion animated form. If you fail this test, you will become one of the animations, but if you endure it, then the Animated King will explode in a burst of light, and you will finally be able to leave. After coming through here, you probably will never see animation the same way again. Level 95 is a complex of strange, interconnected corridors, with windows lining some walls that open up to what is seemingly a blank white void. Entities are relatively uncommon here, although they can be found wandering the halls from time to time. Strange sounds like scratching on the walls and whispers can be heard occasionally, and these noises seem to have no discernible source. There is a possibility that while wandering these halls you will come across a staircase leading to underneath the floor. However, you should not enter this layer of the area for any reason. It's pitch dark and likely completely full of hostile entities, so coming here is certain death. Terrifying disembodied laughing can be heard down here, although in all honesty, I don't see what's so funny. At the end of any feature-length film, I think there should be some behind-the-scenes insights. And as we approach the end of this one, I present to you just that, although I think above the scenes would be more accurate. Level 96 is a non-Euclidean, multi-level expanse of ventilation systems. These provide AC to the first 7 levels of the backrooms, and temperatures in here can range from 103 to negative 24 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, that's a range of 137 degrees. Watch out for any rust in here, because it'll likely give you an extremely bad version of tetanus. There are also dangerous entities known as clumps that live here, and can be found sporadically. Many of these vents bend in insane ways, such as going straight up or down for hundreds of feet. Unless you're part of some kind of backrooms maintenance crew, I suggest staying clear of this level at all costs. But if you do end up here, stay as clear as you can from any colorful, bright wallpaper, as exits in these areas will lead to the partygoers. This level is a small island surrounded by an ocean, filled with hazy fog and lit only by a crescent moon. Gravestones and overgrown grass festoon the island's surface, and right in the middle lies the ruins of an old lighthouse. Until recently, this level was inhabited by ghouls, which were extremely decayed corpses that sluggishly wandered around the island. If they cornered you, they'd hold you in a tight grip, and the lighthouse would cease its regular rotation to shine directly on you, killing you. I know some people think all attention is good attention, but I'm pretty sure nobody alive would want to shine in the spotlight of this level. Level 98 is a small diner in a small, looping section of a street. The exterior is dark and lit only by the moon. I think I'm detecting a theme here. This looping means that if you stand outside of the diner, you will see infinite copies of yourself, looking at infinite copies of yourself off in the distance. Pretty meta. Inside the diner, you'll hear the sounds of a busy kitchen, although no one is actually in there. If you sit down at a table, there's a possibility that you could be visited by a blurry echo of a person you know, a specter that can neither be seen clearly nor properly heard. I mean, I'm all for having familiar company visit me in the backrooms, but at least have the decency to appear fully in focus. Welcome to Ghoul Town. This level is a desert with sand made entirely out of oxidized metals, which also happens to make up a third of the atmosphere, so an oxygen tank will be needed to breathe. Traveling long enough will bring you to a settlement known as Ghoul Town. The inhabitants of this town, or ghouls as they're known, resemble undead humans. However, they're friendly, and although they can't speak verbally, they're fluent in American Sign Language. So if you're looking for an occasion to bust out your little appreciated ASL skills, well, this would be it. And now we've finally reached level 100. So kick your shoes off, sit in the sand, and dip your feet in the water. This level is made of an endless ocean, with a thin stretch of beach breaking up the monotonous blue waters. This level is pretty plain, although you can run across the occasional gravestone, which is pretty weird. Also, there's a mysterious shadowy entity that you can sometimes catch glimpses of out of the corner of your eyes. This is pretty much all the information available about this level, and only one person has ever been here, so it remains highly unexplored. Maybe you can be the one to find the entrance to this place, and to uncover its secrets. Alright, that concludes our journey through the first 100 levels of the Backrooms. I guess 101 technically, since I didn't want to end on level 99. That would have felt pretty anticlimactic. Again, if you consider subscribing, that would be fantastic. As always, I've been Johnny, and you've been awesome.